formed in 48 hours. Point about implications. This is a quote from Goethe, who's a German poet. He's actually a humanist. But he said this, and he said this not applying it to evolution, but I will apply it to evolution. A false hypothesis, that would be evolution, is better than none at all, for false does no harm at all. But when it fortifies itself, when it is accepted universally and becomes a kind of creed that no one can doubt, that nobody may investigate, that is the disaster of which centuries suffer. And I believe our 20th century, moving into the 21st century, will suffer from exactly that. The impact of evolution will substantially change the world we live in. And I'll deal with that a little further in just a minute. Out of Germany in 1933, if you tell a lie long enough and loud enough and often enough, the people will believe it. You will notice in this society, particularly in the last 5 years, and I believe in the next 5 years particularly, you're going to hear more and more people saying, evolution is a fact. What they're saying is, don't you dare question it. Don't you dare doubt it, because we're declaring it a fact. Nothing could be further from the truth, but you'll hear that more and more as the evidence accumulates to discredit it more and more. Final conclusion about creation, and then we'll take our break. I told you I spoke for about an hour. We're just about an hour. Final conclusion. First of all, creation has no contradiction with science, and we haven't dealt with that much. We will in the questions and answers. No contradiction with history. History is actually his story. And it's always be ready to give an answer, but remember, it's ultimately faith, not facts. You know, belief in where we came from is a matter of faith. And evolutionists have as much faith, or even more faith, than you or I. To believe that you came from pond scum, which is what they say, takes a lot more faith than to think that a creator put me on this world on purpose, with a purpose in life. I need to talk just for a moment about the implications of what we've talked about. And it's critical for us to understand it. I alluded to this earlier, and I'm going to just cover this in a fairly quick area. I'm not going to use any visuals, because I want the impact to come directly on you. When you deal with where we came from, it's critical to understand our origin, because that's how you base the way you live. Let me go back to racism. When Darwin wrote in 1859, the people that took Darwin's work, people like Huxley, were able to now interpret Darwin's work based upon what Charles had said. What had he said? He'd said, given long periods of time, by slow random processes, dead chemicals come alive, and those dead chemicals that come alive turn into you or I. So you sprung from, well, actually some authors have said that, pond scum. Now, if that's the case, then what difference does it make if I, believing in natural selection, am stronger than you and decide to eliminate you? Nothing. That, in fact, is what was happened in Germany as a result of the concept and evolution of racism. And let me talk about that. When the white Europeans first got a hold of Darwin's theory, they said, aha, a basis on which to grade the different people groups in the world. What did they do? They said, since we're writing the books, the white Europeans are on top. The yellow races are next, the brown races are next, the black races are next, the Aborigines are down here, and the Tasmanians are on the bottom. So the Europeans could go to Tasmania, kill 10,000 at least, boil the brains out, and send the skulls back to the museums in Europe and say, here are the artifacts of evolution. That comes right out of evolution. But the Bible says something very different. It says, all men are one blood, all men have common parents. So what happened in Germany in the 30s is the direct result of what Charles Darwin started in 1859. The concept of a superior race dominating the world by the process of natural selection. Bring that into the 20th century right now, and what do you see? The same process. When the Nazis began in Germany, they passed something called the Nuremberg laws. That's why, in fact, when the war criminals were tried, they were tried in that city. The Nuremberg laws simply said this: Jews, mental degenerates, are no longer people. And since they are no longer people, we will put them in camps and exterminate them. Roe v. Wade says a child in the womb is no longer a person. Destroy it. It is no different. We are on the same road as Germany was in the 30s. It's a matter of time.